And I think building a company is really hard.
We weren't trying to start a company, we were trying to get a computer.
You have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing.
We hadn't gone to business school. We didn't read the Wall. We didn't even know what the Wall Street Journal was.
It requires your greatest persuasive abilities to hire the best people you can.
A venture capitalist, actually, told me that I should go talk to Mike Marklet.
You've got to be a really good talent scout, because no matter how smart you are, you need a team of great people.
And if you actually look at why they're there, why people have come to Apple, why people came originally, it certainly wasn't for the salary.
Steve Jobs taught me that A players hire A players.
Keep them at your company.
One day I got a call from Steve Jobs that says, you know, we need a word processor on Macintosh. And I said, well, you know, I don't want to do it. I want to go back to school. And he gave me a price, and so I said, well, okay.
Keep them at your company and keep them working, you know, doing the best work of their lives, hopefully.
He wanted Apple to be great, and he wanted the product to be great, and he wanted you to be great. And if you weren't doing your best work, he was upset.
We did our best work in our careers because we were presented with the biggest challenge.
If we do this right, we can build something that's so great, we can't screw this up.
If you actually divide the sales number by the people, you'll find that we probably have the highest sales dollars per employee that anybody's ever heard of. And the reason is because we've got the most incredible collection of people on the planet.
Every good product is because a group of people cared deeply about making something wonderful that they and their friends wanted.
An opportunity to work your butt off and get something done right, see it get out the door without getting all screwed up. And an opportunity to work with professionals that are as good as you are in other disciplines.
The people that worked on it consider themselves, and I certainly consider them, artists. These are the people that under different circumstances would be painters and poets, but because of the time that we live in, this new medium has appeared.
And you've got to figure out how to size people up fairly quickly, make decisions without knowing people too well, and hire them and, you know, see how you do and refine your intuition and be able to help, you know, build an organization that can eventually just, you know, build itself.
So what we're going to judge ourselves by, the senior management of the company is going to judge itself by, is can we maintain this atmosphere of tremendous creativity, tremendous productivity, a company where it's just fine to fall on your face as long as you pick yourself up pretty fast.
He understood that people did not enjoy, made to feel like they were failing, you know, that they weren't doing a good enough job. People don't like that.
If you want to hire and keep really bright people, then you can't tell them what to do.
Okay.
Very often.
We cannot change our management hierarchical organization very fast relative to the changing business conditions. We can't have somebody working for a new boss every week.
At Apple, it's about ideas, and we argue about ideas constantly.
To create clusters of people working on a common task, and these 15 people can work together extremely efficiently no matter where they are geographically and no matter who they work for hierarchically. And these organizations can live for as long as they're needed and then vanish. And we're finding we can reorganize our companies electronically very rapidly, and that's the only type of organization that can begin to keep pace with the changing business conditions.
If we can maintain that for the next 10 years and beyond, we'll have been successful. And the rest of the stuff will take care of itself. The rest of the stuff will take care of itself.
I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure that I'm sure I could have done better when I was at Apple the first time, and a lot of things that happened after I left that I thought were wrong turns, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, and you kind of got to let go of that stuff, and you know, we are where we are. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. You know, I wish I hadn't gotten fired, I wish I was there, I wish this, I wish that. It doesn't matter. And so let's go invent tomorrow.
Always the hardest decision I think anybody leading an organization makes is to let people go.
With Apple in the situation it finds itself, it was time for a change. And the directors agreed with that.
And at the beginning at Apple, it was pretty tough. Apple was in worse shape than I thought when I joined.
Apple's problem has been not a lack of air volume. coming out of Apple. It's been a lack of execution. It's been a lack of good management. It's just the basic stuff.
So what are some beginning steps that we're going to take? One of the first ones has to be to start at the top. The rest of the prior board is resigned, and we're going to add...
When you're a little younger and you don't have a family of your own, maybe it's a little easier. You don't think about it as much. But when you start to have a family of your own and kids, you realize that the person you're laying off's got to go home and tell their family they don't have a job, and it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. So that was, I think, the hardest thing I've had to do in the last many years.
Ed Woolard. Ed is the chairman and former CEO of DuPont. Gareth Chang. Gareth is the president of Hughes International. Larry Ellison, CEO of Oracle. Jerry York, former CFO of IBM and Chrysler. Bill Campbell, CEO of Intuit. And lastly, I am joining the board as well.
Fortunately, you know, we got that out of the way in the first year. And our competitors have laid off tens of thousands of people in the last 2.5 years, and we haven't. We haven't had no big layoffs.
They're all getting calls, being offered 3 times as much money to go do this, do that, the valley's hot, and none of them are leaving.
And we decided to innovate our way through this downturn, and so we're turning out more products now than we ever have in the company's history. But the first year was very hard.
Apple suffered for several years from lousy engineering management.
The individual contributors were unbelievable. I asked a lot of them, why in the heck did you stay? And they had a phrase that I'd heard several times. They said, well, we bleed 6 colors.
Rather than anarchy, I found people that can't wait to fall into line behind a good strategy.
Focusing is about saying no. Focusing is about saying no. And you've got to say no, no, no. And when you say no, you piss off people. And they go talk to the San Jose Mercury, and they write a shitty article about you.
Provide relevant, compelling solutions that customers can only get from Apple.
And the result of that focus is going to be some really great products where the total is much greater than the sum of the parts. Some mistakes will be made along the way. That's good, because at least some decisions are being made along the way. And we'll find the mistakes, we'll fix them.
But it's the developers that bring the creative insight most of the time. It's the developers that bring the market knowledge. And it's the developers that bring that entrepreneurial energy. In a large company, there are not as many cars in the parking lot on Sunday at 3 p.m. You know, Microsoft was the biggest software developer outside of Apple developing for the Mac.
Apple's greatest core asset is you all. It's the group of 20 to 25 million active users that believe that Apple products and Macintosh is still the best in the world.
The goal here is to literally eliminate 80% of the code that every developer has to write for their app, because it's in common with every other app, and let them focus on just the 20% of their code that's unique and value add to their app.
And there's $1.5 billion software industry built around this thing. This is one of the core assets of the company. And we are going to invest a lot more in it, because we think it is an incredible asset and it has yet to really be fully exploited.
But what we do at Apple is we try to make tools for people in the end. And tools to enjoy entertainment, tools to communicate, tools to create, whether it's Macs or phones or iPods. Apple lives in an ecosystem. It needs help from other partners. It needs to help other partners. And relationships that are destructive don't help anybody. What was really clear was that if the game was a zero-sum game where for Apple to win, Microsoft had to lose, then Apple was going to lose. So I called Bill up and we tried to patch things up. We have to let go of this notion that for Apple to win, Microsoft has to lose. The two companies have reached a full cross-license for all patents that exist and for patents that are filed within the next 5 years. Microsoft Office on Macintosh for the next 5 years. We are going to be collaborating with Microsoft on Java. Microsoft is making an investment in Apple. Microsoft is buying $150 million worth of Apple stock at market price. It is non-voting shares.
And since that time, we've had a team that's fairly dedicated to doing the Mac applications.
That Microsoft is going to be part of the game with us as we restore this company back to health, have a vested interest in that stock price going up.
The relationship between the Mac development team at Microsoft and Apple is a great relationship. It's one of our best developer relationships.
The era of setting this up as a competition between Apple and Microsoft is over as far as I'm concerned, because we need all the help we can get. And if we screw up and we don't do a good job, it's not somebody else's fault, it's our fault. I'm sure that a lot of you have had this experience where you're changing, you're growing as a person, and people tend to treat you like you were 18 months ago. And it's really frustrating sometimes when you're growing up and you're becoming more capable and you've solved, maybe you had some personality quirks you've kind of gotten over, whatever it may be, and people still treat you like you were a year to 18 months ago. It can be very frustrating. Well, it's the same with a company.
I used to like Intel's advertising, so I called them up one day, and I said, "Who does your advertising?" They said, "Well, Regis McKenna." And I said, "What's a Regis McKenna?" They said, no, it's a person. They gave me his phone number, and I called Regis up, and he told us to go away about 4 or 5 times, but eventually he agreed to help us out.
Marketing is a subjective thing. It's not a science. There's a lot of art to it. The high-order bit of any marketing campaign is profitability.
I am interested in storytelling.
The medium really does communicate a lot about the message. In some cases, the medium overrides the message. Apple should not be on television at all this year. It's the wrong place to be for Apple. Because what it means, just a sec, what it means is that Apple is trying to spend a lot of money to convince you that everything's okay. There's something like 10 to 15% of Mac sales which can be traced directly back to people using Adobe Photoshop as their power app, right? When was the last time you saw Adobe and Apple co-marketing Photoshop? I think Apple needs to be working with really great agencies. I don't care if they're hungry or if they're not. I don't care if they're West Coast or East Coast. They just need to be great. Because the results need to be great. Our customers aren't going to measure us on how hard people tried or how hungry they were. They're going to measure us on what they see. PR is influencing purchase consideration in this category, not advertising. It's the same with the press. The press is going to have a lag time. Because if on page 7 to 14, Apple's spending $1 million saying we're back, but on page 1, a journalist writes an article saying they're in the tank, who are you going to believe? And the best thing that we can do about the press is to embrace them, do the best we can to educate them about the strategy, but to keep our eye on the prize. And that is turning out some great products, communicating directly with our customers as best we can, getting the community of people that are going to make this stuff successful like yourselves in the loop so you know everything, and just marching forward one foot in front of the other. And the press will take care of it. It's like the stock price. The press and the stock price will take care of themselves. By the end of this year, it's going to look quite different.
You have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, and you don't really love it, you're going to give up. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do.